Good morning.
Good morning. It's October 6th, 2024. And our topic today is looking up when things are down or upside down. So many of us have opportunities to learn to look up when things are looking down. And it seems to be, just part of the life situation here. Something's always happening
Yeah.
somewhere to someone. And so how do we deal with that? And how do we keep our spiritual center when that's happening?
Well, let's start off with Judith wasn't real busy 6 days ago, 7 days ago,
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. She wasn't. Why time flies when you're not having a
Well,
good time.
minus 2 days.
Yeah. So anyway, she was having a good time, and she thought, this I'm so bored, and so she decided to walk across the kitchen floor or enter the kitchen floor with wet feet, and then she decided it would be a good time to dance, and that didn't work out because she landed
And I
on.
was upside down.
Yeah, and she was upside down on her head and on her shoulder, and she broke her shoulder, and now she has a brand new shoulder, which is the good news is she has a brand new shoulder. The bad news is that it takes a little while for her to get used to it and for the pain and everything to go away. So
And to be left-handed because it's my right hand. So
yeah, so what I wanted to start with today is, and I think it's the most important piece of all of what we're going to be talking about today is that when things happen to us, when things go upside down, when we fall in one area, either emotionally or physically, one of the first things we often experience is a feeling of absolute aloneness and isolation. We feel separate from our good, we feel separate from our power, we feel separate from everything. And if we're not careful, we can cultivate that idea of aloneness and separation. And that simply ups the pain and the suffering and the upset and how difficult it is. So the first thing I want to say, and it may be hard for us sometimes to grasp this, is you're not alone. You are not alone. None of us are alone. And as soon as we get that, we understand that, we now know that we're not only not alone, but that there is support, that the universe is in favor of us. And that's evidenced by the fact that we're here, because if the universe didn't want us here, trust me, it's big enough it could find a way for us not to be here. And so when we fall emotionally or we fall physically and we break emotionally or we break physically, it's really, really important to try to find that center, which is one of the things that you were talking about having done. And I'm going to give you that to talk a little bit about because that's so important.
right. Oh, first of all, I think what is helpful is to be grateful for all the help there is
Yeah,
when
that's a
things
great
turn
point.
upside down.
Your Apple Watch.
Yeah, I'm grateful for my Apple Watch where I called the EMTs to come take me to the hospital. Bob was at work. I'm grateful for all the hospital people, although I would have hurried them up a bit. I had to wait 2 days to get surgery because it wasn't life-threatening. It was painful, but it was not life-threatening. So, it takes a lot of care. And I'm grateful for the nurses and the hospital beds and all of that. But
Grateful for the morphine.
grateful for the morphine to sleep. Yeah, it was
Oh,
terrible to have to wait 2 days for surgery when your shoulder is broken. So, but it was a lot of care, and I'm very grateful for it. And but what has been helpful mostly because it's constant pain. You take the pain pills, and I'm not doing the opioids, so I have less pain relief, but an easier easier movement, if you know what I mean.
right.
And but the best thing that has happened for me is the ability to go to my spiritual self, as in meditation, to really just leave the physical self behind. It's an interesting phenomenon when you do that, but then you are with your spirit, which is whole, perfect, and complete. That has no needs, has no pain, and that's the real you. And so it's really has been really helpful for me. And one of my favorite sayings comes from A Course in Miracles, which is that I am not a body, I'm free, for I'm just as God created me,
I like
which
that.
is as spirit. God created me as an eternal spirit. And so I'm free. I'm free from pain when I go to that place. And that and listening with my podcasts my ear pods to spiritual podcasts has been very, very helpful, because everything else is dark. The news is dark and depressing, and the pain is dark, and not being able to move around is it just turns your life upside down, literally. So for me, the solution, which is the solution, has been the solution ever since I found this teaching when I was about 30 years old, that what's really real is my spirit, who I am as a spiritual being, and the physical has ups and downs.
Right. And again, I want to move this into the emotional as well, because that's exactly the life we live emotionally as well. And one of the things that is really important, I think, to pay attention to is that our largest areas of growth, our largest opportunities for growth have often come through a struggle, a hill that seemed too high to climb, uh, a struggle that we weren't sure we could overcome. And in that, it calls out the parts of us that we often don't call out, that have the capacity to show us who we really are. And so we're not alone. Emotionally, we are capable of a lot more than being afraid. We're capable of resolution at multiple levels. You're talking about a level of resolution that if you'd apply it to, or we apply it to our emotional life, is also equal. I was working on a piece of artwork to try to, in some way, summarize how I felt Judith was taking a nap, and which she's doing a lot of, which is good. And she was taking a nap, and I was working on a piece of art trying to say, what is this that you're experiencing, and what does recovery look like? And I don't think I did as good a job with the artwork as I had in my mind and my heart to do. But while I
I
was
think it was pretty good.
but while I was working on it, what was really interesting was I suddenly felt a presence. In fact, I had to look over my shoulder to see who it was that had come into the room.
Ah,
And I thought, this is really interesting. I am busy thinking about that we're not alone, thinking about how to say this in some way, and I find I'm not alone. And I really felt I couldn't see the person that was there, or the entity, or the energy that was there, but I so powerfully felt it, and it was larger than me, and it just felt very, very real.
and comforting, I imagine.
Yeah, and so I thought, wow, thank you. And I think we forget our guardian angels, we forget the spirit world, and I know we don't teach that in our teaching. We don't talk much about it, but Ernest Holmes actually did talk about it in his original volume of his textbook, that there
Mhm.
is another dimension. In fact, there's multiple dimensions. And so in my meditation, I ask for those in all the dimensions that have a connection to Judith to support work and help her get through this. And when I was doing that last night, I had this feeling of a whole chorus, a chorus that was singing in favor of uplifting, encouraging, and empowering. And whether it works to the degree that we'd like it to, it does work. And if it helps a little, then that's a lot. And very often, what we really need to pay attention to whenever we're in emotional or physical pain is something that I think I'm going to refer to here that Herman Hesse said, which I really like. It is not our purpose to become each other. It is to recognize each other, to learn, see others, and honor them for who they are. We must remember how to honor and respect life with each breath, step, word, and thought. What you bless blesses you in return. This is the power of reciprocity. And I think it's really, really very, very, very powerful, which isn't the quote I was planning on reading. So, people ask, what is this? Oh, here, this is what I was actually getting to, but that was a good quote. People ask, what is the sense of our small effort? Uh, the answer is we must lay one brick at a time, take one step at a time. A pebble cast into the pond causes ripples that spread in all directions. Each one of our thoughts, words, and deeds is like that. That's by Dorothy Day, American journalist and social activist. The notion that there is a connection between the life and events of our previous existence follows from the Buddhist understanding of the natural law of cause and effect. That is so powerful when you think about it. We're all connected, which means our prayers are connected. When I read that last night, I thought, I didn't really want to post anything on Facebook about what had gone on. I didn't want to make a big deal of it. But I thought, there's lots of people that love Judith, and I want them to know, because when they enter into prayer, that prayer does make a difference. And when I checked this morning, we had 136 people that responded with prayer and love. And I really believe that's the chorus. That's the chorus of attention. We know that prayer works. Does it work the way we want it to work? No, it works the way it needs to work. It works for the best possible outcome. And that's really, really important for us to have in mind.
I've even had people in my building where we live in the condo say that they've been praying for me, and I really appreciate that. And I told them I think that's the most powerful thing we can do for each other at times like this. But it's so easy to think prayer is a no thing, but it is way more than a no thing. Most people can't do anything to help you out in your physical situation except prayers, and prayers are very powerful.
They are. If you've ever had the occasion, which I've been blessed to have, of falling in love with someone, which 37 years later is still true. But when that happens to you, it doesn't just happen to you. It happens around you as well. Other people see that it's happened to you. Other people want to be a part of whatever that energy is that you're expressing. Well, that's also the same energy that's in prayer. It's that love energy that's being sent out. And when lots of people send that energy out, it's a beautiful energy. And so let's be negative for a minute and say it doesn't make much difference. Well, I know when I'm in pain, any difference is a lot. Any help
Exactly.
and support is a lot. And, prayer is, for some of us, the lidocaine that we put on the pain. For others of us, it's a deep emotional connection to our source.
Well, Raymond Moody, who
Ah,
is an MD and also a researcher, has really done a lot of research of the power of prayer for people in hospitals. And he's followed many studies, and he's found that it doesn't matter what kind of prayer is done, what kind of denomination, a type of prayer, but people always did better in groups who were prayed for than those who were not.
yes.
So, we really have evidence for it. The biggest problem in our country is most people don't believe in the power of prayer.
Just because of all the weather conditions we've been having, for some reason, it just flashed on. When it's snowing really, really hard and it's really, really deep, you go out and you shovel a path, and everyone can walk that path. And that path, it doesn't stop the snow. It doesn't melt the snow, but it creates a pathway that other people can use, that you can use, and you can walk away from it and go in the house, and that path is still there for other people. Prayer is like shoveling a path of kindness, a path of love, a path of connection. And it says, I care, and you make a difference. And I remember that in particular when I shoveled the driveway of a neighbor of mine once, and she was really old. I think she was like 65 or so. Uh, really, I remember when that was old. And she came out and she was in tears, and I said, "Don't cry, they'll freeze." And, but because an hour later, her driveway was still open for her, and the message of love that we get when we clear away whatever it is that's on the path that covers the path of light, when we clear that away, it opens us up to the good. And so I really want to emphasize this whole idea that you're not alone, because we're not. There's all the people that responded to the Facebook page or Facebook post that I made. They weren't just there at that moment. They were there before and after, and they'll be there. They're part of our network. We all have that.
I was going to say something significant to that,
You will.
and I'm not sure what it was. uh,
Yeah, it is not our purpose to become each other. It is to recognize each other. That's really important, to recognize each other. And you
I know what I wanted to say.
please.
Excuse me. Sandra Marchman is one of our prayer practitioners, and I told her this week I was having trouble staying awake. I'm just having trouble staying conscious. I was just sleeping most of the time. And she says, "Oh, that's great, because I know every time you're asleep, you are receiving my prayers, because I've directed them to you, and a direct connection whenever you're asleep. So that was such a comforting
Yeah,
thing to hear. And we do know that when you're asleep, you're healing better probably than when you're awake. And I just know the healing is happening. It's painful, it's slow, but the healing is happening. And I know that um, my great escape is often through meditation, sleep or meditation. But I know any day now
we
it's
watched
going to be
a,
better.
we watched a two-part or three-part, I think it is, series on the baby chimps and chimpanzees. And this couple have adopted like 25 or 30 orphaned chimpanzees and taking care of them. And why I was reminded of that is that they showed the two of them, the husband and wife, laying in bed, and all of these chimps in bed with them, snuggling and cuddling. And one of them has his hand on
On his face.
on his face, and it's like, but what you see is the warmth and the smile and the inner comfort, the sense of well-being that comes from that connection.
That just touching and
Yeah.
holding, yeah.
We can touch each other with prayers. We can touch each other with love and kindness, and it's a good touch.
And I would like to say that of course, you probably already know this, but I am so grateful for having a husband who's a loving caregiver. It takes a lot of care when someone can hardly get up, hardly move around, hardly do the essential functions. And to have someone who's willing to shower you, wash your hair, feed you, dress you, is pretty amazing gift. And I
I'm up for the
feel so-
task. You've got another 4 days. And after that, you're on your own.
It's I just can't imagine living alone through something like this. Probably I wouldn't. I would probably be in some managed care place, wouldn't I?
Where they didn't manage to care.
Yeah, or they
Yeah.
probably wouldn't manage to
Yeah.
care. So it's I know it's a lot. It's a lot for any caregiver, but it is I'm really very grateful for it.
Well, when we look at that a little deeper, though, the reason that you have a caretaker is because of the way you've taken care of the relationship. A lot of the caretaking that we get is a reflection of the care that we have given and the care that we have taken of ourselves and of what we're going through and what other people are going through. When we take care of the relationships that we have, they're more likely to take care of us. In some ways, and as I've shared this metaphor before, love is like the wake behind the boat. And when the motor is turned off, the wake continues to push the boat. And a good relationship, even when the motor's been turned off sometimes for a short period of time, will continue to move in the direction that you were going. And that's really, really important to know. So you've earned, in the way you have been in relationship with me, the privilege of serving you. And I think that's real important for all of us to think, how do we serve ourselves and how do we serve the relationships we have for the love that's important for us to receive as well.
Mm. Yeah, and I hope some of my caring for you with your joint replacements.
Okay, I've had a couple of bad days. Judith pointed out to me that when I had my knee replacement, I wasn't entirely pleasant the entire time. Yeah. I mean, I thought I was. I thought the yelling part of it was just because I like to exercise my voice. No, I actually
And your lungs.
I never yelled, but I was certainly, I think
You yelled.
from time to time, I would simply say, "Stop it." When I had my knee replacement, my first knee replacement, Judith was so wonderful. She tried to cook everything on the planet that she thought would help me. And all I wanted to do was not eat. I just wanted somebody to sit with me and somebody to stop the pain. And nobody can stop the pain. The pain is a great conductor of energy, but unfortunately not the loving kind energy. So if you're with somebody and they're abrupt or they're short with you, you might ask yourselves, are they feeling emotional pain or physical pain? And of course, get away from that as quickly as you can. But but have a little compassion, because when people are short with you and that's not the way they normally are, something's going on with them. And it's probably not about you.
Indeed.
Which is important. Well, I think we've used a lot of our time, but I'd like to have you share more of what you'd like to share, because this is your time too. What do you think? More thoughts?
No, I think I'm all out of thoughts.
Are you thoughtless?
I'm pretty thoughtless right now.
So let's love one another if we possibly can in all the ways that we can, and let's know, and I think I'm gonna end with a treatment here for us all.
I would
if we
like
can.
that.
And so,
So this is an affirmative prayer,
yeah,
spiritual mind treatment.
and all affirmative prayer works from the premise that it's an already done deal. So when we speak in the positive and the absolute, what we're saying is, I see this already happening, and because I see it happening, all of the universe and everything is in favor of that, makes it happen. It's already happened. So what I know now for each of us, no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, whatever pain that we have had or are having right now, be it emotional, physical, whether it is separation or anything that keeps us in discomfort, whatever that is, what I know now for sure is that it has brought forward the greatest and most powerful amount of love that is within. It has brought forward all of the intelligence, all of the knowing, all of the value and in whatever's necessary to make this absolutely a perfect experience. So wherever the pain is, no matter what it is that we're experiencing, it is absolutely resolved and taken care of, and it teaches us exactly what we need to know. And so because we have been taught, because this pain is now resolved, wherever it is, however it is, whether it's financial, emotional, economic, love, any of these things, it is done. It is done and it is completed and it is taken care of. And I end this prayer saying, you can't lose with the stuff we use. And so it is.
So it is.
And I borrowed that from one of our practitioners who I love dearly, who is so, so capable. And so I'm going to stop the recording here, but not before I mention that for those of you that would like to support us, like to support our ministry, please go to our website. Lately, for whatever reason, our donations have been down, and I suspect it's because there's been a lot going on in people's lives. But if the donation that you had planned on hasn't come forward and recently and you're up to it or can manage it, then please send it. If by the same token, you're having a struggle with that, please call us, Judith, myself, and say, hey, would you please do some treatment for my finances so that I have more when I need it. And for that, we say thank you. And so it is.